Welcome back to the next session of human health and disease. Now let's move on to the next infectious disease. So few infectious diseases that we have studied in our previous session, that includes common cold caused by a rhinovirus. Second includes pneumonia caused by bacteria, either it is a Haemophilus influenzae or the other type of pneumonial bacteria, okay, Streptococcus pneumoniae. Then the third disease is typhoid, where it is caused by a bacteria Salmonella typhi. Now the fourth type of disease that we are going to study today is malaria. So let us look at the next disease, malaria, the fourth one. Now all these are the infectious disease where we are studying it. So these infectious disease are those which are easily spread from one person to another person, as you know it very well. Okay. Now even malaria is such type of disease that is spread from one person to another person through a vector, and the vector is mosquito. Now here vectors are the agents, that transfers or transmits the disease. Pathogens are disease causing agents. Remember the definition of the pathogens also. Pathogens are disease causing agents. Vectors are the agents that carries the disease. That means here we are talking about a vector, and that vector is mosquito, and that mosquito is female Anopheles mosquito. That a female Anopheles mosquito is the carrier of the disease. Okay, it carries this disease, and that is nothing but it is a protozoan parasite, right? Now in the malaria, let's look at the causative organism. Now if you look at the causative organism, it is caused by a protozoan parasite. It is caused by a protozoan parasite, and the name of that protozoan parasite, we call it as Plasmodium. It is caused by Plasmodium, and this Plasmodium is nothing but it is a protozoan parasite. Now this is important here. It is a protozoan parasite which belongs to the kingdom Protista. Okay. Then as Plasmodium is there, in the Plasmodium we have different types of species. So let us look at those different types of Plasmodium species. And those species, it includes Plasmodium vivax, then Plasmodium ovale, then Plasmodium falciparum, then Plasmodium malariae. These are various different types of species that belongs to a single genus, and that genus is nothing but it is Plasmodium. Plasmodium is the genus in which most of the species are there. That includes Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium falciparum, and Plasmodium malariae. Out of these, the most dangerous and deadly, that is fatal to humans, fatal meaning that causes death in the humans, is Plasmodium falciparum. Plasmodium falciparum, it is fatal to humans. That means that causes death. That means it is one of the dangerous kinds of the species by which the person will get lot of very high fever that even infects the brain and leads to death, okay, within a short period of time. That is why this is a deadly parasite that causes the disease, okay. Plasmodium species, remember this, which causes fatality in the malarial strain, that is Plasmodium falciparum. Then the most common type of Plasmodium that causes malaria in the humans is Plasmodium vivax, is the most common type of Plasmodium that we see infecting the humans. Okay. Now let us go to the next one, transmission. Transmission meaning how it is spread from one person to another person. Okay, so as we know it very well, it is easily transported or transferred from one person to another person through the bite of a female Anopheles mosquito. Okay, it is spread through the bite of female Anopheles mosquito. So, this mosquito we call it as vector. So, this is the vector that carries the pathogen. That means in its salivary gland it contains this Plasmodium species where it infects the humans when it bites. Okay, so this is mode of transmission. Now let us look at the symptoms. What are the symptoms that we observe in case of the malarial patients? So symptoms. Now initially there will be fever. So high fever will be there continuously, and later on fever with chills. Then weakness will be there, even stomach pain will be there, dizziness will be there. Okay. So the major symptoms that includes here is fever and later on fever with chills. Mal jora bartava, any kind of infection causes fever. Then later on this fever turns to chills, chali jora ant kariತೀವಿ. Okay. So in this way, here we observe this fever with chills subsequently and almost with a time gap. Then anyhow with this disease weakness will be there, the tiredness will be there, sometimes the abdominal pain will be also there. Okay. So all these are the various symptoms. Then what is the treatment for this? Treatment is anti-malarial antibiotics has to be taken. Okay, so treatment is anti-malarial antibiotics. Okay, in the form of injections or in the form of tablets. It is consumed so that the Plasmodium species can be killed. Okay. Now, for this, what we say is precaution has to be taken, because how we get this malaria through the bite of the female Anopheles mosquito. So better avoid biting up of the mosquito. And remember, suppose if this mosquito bites a human in the home, chance of getting this infection by other person in our home or nearby our area will be very high, because the mosquito will be growing in that surrounding only. That is why water helps in growth of these mosquitoes, multiplication of these mosquitoes. Due to this reason, avoid stagnation of water in front of your homes. Okay. Now that is why stagnation of water should not be there, and hence in the previous class as I have told you, rainy season is the microbial season, rainy season is the season of the mosquitoes, rainy season is the season of most of the organisms, because it is a favorable environment for their rapid multiplication, for their proliferation, for their growth, okay, so that they can increase in their number, and most of them causes diseases also. Okay, so better take all the precautionary measures so that these mosquitoes should not be there in your surroundings. Suppose if any ponds are there, we are releasing certain fishes that eats on the larvae of the mosquitoes, and those fishes we call them as gambusia fish. Because if any pond is there, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತಲ ಕೆರೆ ಇತ್ತಂದರೆ ಕೆರೆ ನೀರು ಹೆಂಗೆ ನೀವು ಖಾಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಆಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ನಾವು ಫಿಶಸ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಫಿಶ್ ಇಸ್ ಗ್ಯಾಂಬೂಸಿಯಾ ಫಿಶ್. ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಫೀಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಲಾರ್ವೆ. Okay, that means it kills the population of these mosquitoes, thereby controlling the disease, right? Now for this malaria, we have the life cycle of malaria, life cycle in man and life cycle in mosquito, so which is most important with respect to this disease. So let's look at this life cycle of malaria. Malarial parasite called as plasmodium. Now to complete the life cycle of this plasmodium, it requires two hosts, and those two hosts are, one is man, other one is mosquito. Now let's see what happens in man. That means plasmodium is the parasite that requires two hosts, okay, man and a mosquito. Now in case of the man, the asexual cycle occurs, and in the mosquito the sexual cycle occurs. Sexual cycle, we refer it as sexual cycle in the mosquitoes because there is a fertilization process, and asexual cycle means there is no fertilization process, only multiplicative process will be there, where they form into different stages, while the sexual phase, it includes the fusion of the gametes, and based on this, asexual phase occurs in man and the sexual phase occurs in mosquitoes. Hence, to complete the life cycle of the plasmodium parasite, it requires two hosts, man and a mosquito. That means this plasmodium parasite is a separate, which is present in the nature. Somehow this gets entered into the mosquito. That means this plasmodium is not the residential place of the mosquito, but somehow in the larval stage of the mosquito, when it will be feeding, during that phase these spores have entered into its body and they are present in the form of parasite. That means even the mosquito is the host and the parasite is plasmodium in it. Understood? Okay. So this is regarding its introduction. Now in the man, what happens? When the female Anopheles mosquito comes and bites, with its proboscis it will insert into our skin, then it will inject an infective stage of plasmodium. That infective stage is said to be sporozoite. So here we have the sporozoite. Now when a mosquito bites the human, it will inject an infective stage of plasmodium. Plasmodium has various stages, various phases, okay, where it converts into different stages. So the infective stage is sporozoite, remember, which is of most important. Then what will happen? Now here the sporozoites, after injecting by the bite of the mosquito, it enters into the bloodstream. Through the blood, it migrates to our largest organ in the human body. Do you know which is the largest organ in the human body? Yes, right. Probably your answer might be right. So what you are thinking? It is the liver. So sporozoites enters into liver cells through blood. Okay. So, through the blood stream they will enter into the liver cells. Then after that what happens here? It multiplies in liver cells. This infective stage, the sporozoites, through the blood, it enters into the liver cells, it infects the liver cells, it multiplies in the liver cells, and the liver cells will burst out. When the liver cells are bursted, then the pathogens are released back into the blood. Again, these pathogens will infect RBCs. Now multiplies in the liver cells. Then what will happen? Okay, so let me take it down here. It multiplies in the liver cells and liver cells burst to release the pathogens. Okay, now the liver cells, when they burst out, many pathogens are released into the bloodstream. Okay, so liver cells burst, then after that what will happen? The pathogens will infect RBCs. Now here the pathogens will infect the RBCs. Okay, then what will happen? The pathogens will multiply in the RBCs. Now here multiplies in RBCs. It will multiply. Okay, that means there are various different types of stages. Okay, sporozoite, it enters into the liver. In the liver there is a feeding stage where we also call it as merozoites, that we are not going to discuss because we are discussing with respect to your NCERT. In the NCERT there is a diagrammatic representation and the scheme is also given. So I am giving you in this form what exactly happens in the life cycle of the plasmodium. Okay, now here the pathogens infect the RBC, that means now they will enter into RBC. Sporozoites directly cannot enter into RBC because that is not at all the feeding stage, or it cannot multiply also. That is why first it has to infect the liver cells, it has to multiply in the liver cells, then after that it converts into one more stage, and the liver cells, when it burst out, then only that second stage can infect RBC. It enters inside the RBC, red blood cells. Then after that, inside the RBC there are again various stages, amoeboid stage, signet ring stage. Okay, so various different stages are also there. After that, when it multiplies in the RBC, while multiplying, it will produce a chemical called as hemozoin. Then after multiplication, when sufficient number of the parasites have been formed in the RBC will burst out. ಈಗ RBC ಹೊಡಿದದ. When RBC burst out, the pathogens are released outside and there they form into gametes. We call it as gametocytes. Okay. And during this process, the chemical is also released and the name of the chemical is hemozoin, and that hemozoin is responsible for the chills here. Okay, let us look at the next one. Now here the pathogens infect RBCs, multiplies in the RBCs, and RBCs bursts to release pathogens and hemozoin is also released. Hemozoin is the chemical that is responsible for the chilling effect. Hemozoin is the chemical that is responsible for the chills. That means when RBCs burst out, then we get chilled fever. ಯಾವಾಗ ಮಲೇರಿಯಾ ಆದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಜ್ವರ ಇದ್ದ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಚಳಿ ಜ್ವರ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಅವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆರ್ ಬಿ ಸಿಸ್ ಆರ್ ಬಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್. ಆರ್ ಬಿ ಸಿಸ್ ಆರ್ ಬಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ one of the dangerous sign because RBC number will go on decreasing, because RBCs are most important that carries nutrients and everything including oxygen to our body cells. That's why it's a little bit a serious case, but need not worry, it's not fatal. Especially which species? Plasmodium vivax. Okay, so here hemozoin is released. So RBCs burst to release pathogens. Okay, that means they enter into next stage, and those next stage we call them as gametocytes. Then it releases gametocytes. So in the RBCs, gamete cells are produced. Few will infect the other RBCs and a few will form into gametes, and those gametes are nothing but these are male and female gametes. They are male and female gametes. Okay, thus completing the life cycle in man. So life cycle in man is over. Okay, so this is regarding the life cycle in man. This completes the life cycle. This is in man. Now what happens in the mosquito? Let's look at in mosquitoes. Now let me explain you what happens in the man, then we will go for this, because this separately can be asked for a short notes type of question. So that is why the life cycle, we are stressing more on this life cycle, right? Okay. Now the life cycle of Plasmodium in man, when the female Anopheles mosquito bites the humans, it will inject an infective stage called as sporozoite. This is an objective question. Which is the infective stage of malaria in man? This is sporozoite. Remember, do not forget this term. It will come everywhere. It will come in your theory, your CET, your NEET also. The infective stage is sporozoite. The sporozoites enters into the blood and infects liver cells. That means enters into liver cells through the blood stream. Then they multiplies in the liver cells. The liver cells will burst out. When the liver cells will burst out, the pathogens are released back into the blood. These pathogens will infect the RBCs. They will multiply in the RBCs, and after that the RBCs are bursted out to release the pathogens, and we also call along with the pathogens even the gametocytes. That means male and female gametes are released into the bloodstream. During this process, even the chemical is also released, because the pathogens will produce a chemical by using our hemoglobin. That is why the name hemozoin. This hemozoin is responsible for chilling effect in the humans. Then these gametocytes, they are male and female gametes. Okay. Now these gametes will be flowing in the blood. Okay, thus completing the asexual, because there is no fusion of any gametes here. Only gametes are formed. These gametes are not at all fused, because our blood does not have the environmental condition that helps in fusion of these two gametes. Suppose if these two gametes would have been fused in our body, then probably the pathogen would not require mosquito. Okay, hence there is no fusion. That's why we call the phase as asexual phase in the man or in humans. Now what will happen in the mosquito? Okay, let me tell you. When the person is infected, in his blood gametocytes are there. Then female Anopheles mosquito, when whether the same or another, it comes and sucks the blood, the gametes will enter into its gut. Gut means it's a intestinal region. Then both male and female gametes can fuse, because it is having the favorable environment or alkaline environment where they can fuse. After fusion, the fusion of male and female gamete forms into what? Zygote. zygote undergoes division process, okay, multiplicative division, and it gets embedded inside its gut. Then when it divides and divides, it forms into sporozoites. Those sporozoites will come and reach to its salivary gland, and in the salivary gland the sporozoites are stored. When now mosquito goes and bites another human, the story continues. Okay, this is how the life cycle continues. In mosquito, it is the sexual phase of Plasmodium because there is fusion of the gametes. Now, what happens in the mosquitoes? In mosquitoes, so we are starting with the gametes. When mosquito sucks the blood of the humans, what will happen? So, here male and female gametes enter into the gut of mosquito after the blood meal, into the gut after the blood meal. Then what will happen inside the gut? Fusion of the gametes. Okay, what is fusion of gametes called as? So, here fusion of gametes occurs, what we say, fertilization. Fertilized egg is called zygote. It forms into zygote. This zygote gets embedded in the gut wall, intestinal wall, embedding agtada. It gets embedded in the gut wall, it multiplies. When it multiplies, it forms into sporozoite which travels to the salivary gland. Okay. Now, fusion of the gametes, it forms into zygote. Zygote multiplies. It multiplies then and reaches, multiplies to form sporozoites. Then let us continue. I will continue down. So, here reaches salivary glands, and finally sporozoites are stored in salivary gland of mosquito. Okay. So, after this you have to write this. Okay. Now, what will happen here? In the mosquito, when the mosquito sucks the blood of an infected person, it's only infected, malaria illa hogi blood suck madita antandra ava gametes barangilla. Okay, to the infected person only. Male and female gametes will enter into the gut of the mosquito, where inside the gut, due to the alkaline medium, it gets fused. We call the process of fertilization. After that, fusion of the gametes, fertilization. Fertilized egg is called zygote. Zygote undergoes mitotic division, where we also call it as cleavage process. This will get embedded into its gut. Then during that multiplication, it forms into sporozoites. Those sporozoites will go reach and they are stored in the salivary gland. And when the mosquito bites another human, look at this, what are stored here? Sporozoites. It is an infective stage. It is stored in the salivary gland. Then when the mosquito bites another human, these sporozoites again they travel into the bloodstream, infecting the liver, and the process continues. Okay. That is why the life cycle of the Plasmodium requires two hosts. One is the man and second one is the mosquito. The life cycle that occurs in the man, we call it as asexual cycle, and the life cycle that occurs in the mosquito, we call it as sexual cycle. We call it as sexual cycle because the fusion of male and female gametes occur only in the gut of mosquito, and that environment is not provided by the human blood. Hence, the life cycle of the Plasmodium species is completed in these two hosts. okay, which is of most important, equally important with respect to this malaria, right. So, this is regarding the brief description of the malaria, as this is most important, and you can go with the diagrammatic representation of your NCERT, or you can write this way to explain the life cycle of the Plasmodium species. Okay. So, with this, with a big explanatory part of this disease, let us end up, and we will finish off the rest of the diseases, infective diseases, in the coming class. Thank you.